Hello and welcome to another edition of the podcast. Um, they say in politics, a week is a long time. The last time me and the special guest that we have today, Zakir Hussain, who is a student of politics and a community activist, we had a different government in Bangladesh. We had the only government, and then here we are after 2 weeks. I think we missed last week, and then we had a mini revolution, if you like, and some are calling it the second
Independent.
independence. Especially the guy who took over, Dr. Yunus, the Nobel laureate. He actually said it. He said this is the second um, independence of Bangladesh. So there's lots to talk about today. So welcome everyone, and a special welcome and assalamu alaikum, Zakir Bhai.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Alhamdulillah. As I said, with Bangladesh, there's a lot to take in, and
Exactly.
lots to
I mean,
discuss.
obviously, it's been such a like a few weeks. It's been so many things have been happening. It's just unbelievable. It's almost it was impossible to keep up with stuff.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
literally every hour things were happening. Anyway, yes, I mean last time we talked, there was a different government. Now we have an interim government led by the Nobel laureate, Dr. Yunus, who is the founder of Grameen Bank and many other projects in Bangladesh. And obviously, as we know, Grameen Bank has been a very successful model both in Bangladesh and around the world. Many countries have actually adopted his business model, and it's actually working really well. He's been very successful, not just in Bangladesh, around the world. And obviously, as we know, because of his success, he tends to get invited to many seminars or uh, by governments, to talk about commerce, business. And I was reading it today, actually. He gets quite paid well, Yeah, he gets, yeah, quite,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, on average, apparently he gets between 80,000 to 100,000 pounds per tour. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I didn't know it was that much. I
Yeah,
knew he
yeah,
was someone, yeah, who was well off.
I mean,
Yes.
this is in par with some former prime ministers like Tony Blair, David Cameron. They actually earn around 150,000, 200,000 pounds per tour. That's when,
Wow. Okay.
usually in like Western countries, that's when a lot of the prime ministers or former ministers make a lot of money. They become millionaires. Like Tony Blair became multimillionaire after he left his
Yeah.
premiership, you know.
Wow.
So last time, Zakir Bhai, we were talking about the protest, the student protest, why it started, who is involved, and where the country is headed to.
Yeah.
But obviously, on the 5th of August, fortunately or unfortunately, the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, um, she resigned and fled the country because the protesters were out in hundreds of thousands in the capital. Um, and then after she actually left the Bongo Bobon, which is the residence of the prime
Yeah.
minister, they actually ransacked the whole Bongo Bobon,
So
went into the parliament. Um, and even the army
building. Yeah.
just stood by because the army, they weren't sort of firing or they weren't stopping the protesters because I think it was, it's just went out of control. Even the police, I'm sure you were following with the
I
event.
was. Yeah. I was.
I saw a few videos where the police were shouting, saying like they've run out of bullets. That's how serious it was. And the numbers, I think the number of people who died, and there are like different figures, like some say 400, there are other figures like 900. The recent one said 950 people died. And then there were something like 11,000 people went missing during that period. Within the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, 33,000 people were injured. So that's a big number, isn't it, everybody?
Very big number. I think the numbers of people going missing is alarming. Really.
Yeah. And I was shocked. I'm sure you and many others, not just here, all over the world. They were shocked when they found out that the government were actually torturing people in special torture cells. They called it Ainagar, yeah. So Ainagar was the name
Mira,
of
yeah,
the
half Mira,
torture
yeah,
cells, yeah. And luckily, some people survived. They were there for years, underground, underneath the torture cells, and some of them came out and they gave us their version
yeah.
of how they were treated and how they were tortured. It's very sad. It is what it is. I mean, we have an interim government in Bangladesh right now. What is your sort of take? You want to just
Yeah, I think there's quite a few things. So first things first, I think um, we are yet to know whether it's a good thing for Bangladesh or not a good thing for Bangladesh. I do hope that foreign interference is kept to a minimal. I think the people of Bangladesh have achieved, I think, with giving their lives, the students, they have achieved something which is quite remarkable. Now, there are a few things I want to remember. One is achieving something, and the second one is maintaining that purpose. So, for example, they've managed to, overthrow the current government. Fine, that was one of their aims. But what is it that you were aiming for? A better Bangladesh. Now, if we don't get a better Bangladesh, then those 950 people died for no reason. We
Hmm.
cannot, if we are celebrating, I'm not on either side, Ruhul, as you know.
Hmm.
I'm not celebrating or not celebrating. I'm not doing either.
Hmm.
If we are celebrating in Bangladesh that we've overthrown the government and it's going to be a better Bangladesh, we cannot now just say, okay, new interim government is coming, everything's okay. No, it will not be okay. With all due respect to Dr. Yunus, he is linked to Hillary Clinton, as you said, and obviously he gets invited to quite a lot of things. Hillary Clinton in the past hasn't been the best friend to Bangladesh.
Hmm.
However, those were Awami League sources, but I did read in the independent papers, they did say that Hillary Clinton did want to, during the Podda Shetu, the Podda Bridge,
Hmm.
this is where Hillary Clinton tried to flex her muscle, trying to force Sheikh Hasina to take certain donations or take certain acknowledge certain things which will
Hmm.
make the Clinton Foundation more prominent. And so there's a big story behind that. So I think with Muhammad Yunus, he has achieved a lot as a Bangladeshi. We're very proud of him. But his link to Hillary Clinton and the Clinton family, I do think might be something that will be will cast some sort of aspersions on him as to whether he's a puppet of the United States. I mean, these are harsh words, but I'm only relaying to you what I have read in the papers, what different people are saying. I mean, no man or woman is free of fault. You'll always have people saying things. So the key thing that I want the Bangladeshi people to understand is you achieved something that this is the revolutionary spirit. Ruhul, I'm a student of history.
Hmm.
This is again playing out to
Hmm.
show us the revolutionary spirit of the Bangladeshis. They
Hmm.
have achieved something that other countries just could not.
Oh, yes, without
Could
a
not.
doubt, without a
Yeah.
doubt. Like after many, many decades, I think this protest, became a sort of a model, for
Yeah.
people around the world. People are, praising Bangladeshi students and how
Yes.
brave they were and how they came out and, how they actually
And
managed to succeed,
absolutely.
yeah, in, making the government, listen to them, there came a point,
Absolutely. They're
like
very brave.
initially, Zakir Bhai, it was all about the quota. And then when the courts actually agreed to
Yeah.
abandon the quota system. Then they had nine other demands, yeah, including an apology
Yeah.
from the prime minister, which they never got. They actually gave one whole week to the prime minister. They never got the
Apology.
apology. And another one was like they wanted justice for the people who died within the last few weeks. All the protesters
Yeah.
died,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and even then, the government failed to take any action. That is why, there came a point where the students said, "Hold on, this government isn't, listening to us." I think, look, end of the day, look, if I lose or if a government loses or fails, they can only blame themselves for it because the way they handle stuff.
Absolutely.
You know,
I think
but
absolutely, Ruhul
most of
Bhai.
us, for the purpose of this podcast, we're not taking sides basically. We're just
No,
analyzing.
no, no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
analyzing. Like, had the previous government managed things well, I'm sure they would have been in power right now. When this in 2018, when the students protested, the government listened to them. They cancelled the whole quota
yeah,
system, and then somehow in 2024 in January, few individuals who were the relatives of the freedom fighters, and they made a writ to the High Court. And the High Court,
okay.
they actually decided that the quota system should be reinstated,
Brought back.
brought
Yeah.
back, and as a result, the students came out onto the streets, and
Okay.
they did, so yeah, so they actually appealed. The students, some people on behalf of the students, they appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ultimately, I think it was too late, too little, too
Yeah.
late,
I think
ultimately agreed that it should be
I,
abandoned basically.
I
Um,
think the government also failed to understand the pulse of the people. I think when you're in power for 15 years, you get
mm,
complacent and
mm,
you think, oh, this will just boil over.
mm,
So I do feel that from the prime minister probably ill-advised
mm,
as to the seriousness of the protests.
mm,
However, what I will say is for a student protest to overthrow the government, I have my reservations. I do think that it started off genuine. There was
mm,
genuine concerns. The students very brave, I must say.
mm,
Different people might have different opinions, but if a student who went onto the streets demanding rights, feeling that they're oppressed and they're fighting oppression, and the person dies, a lot of the scholars, I was just going to say, some of the scholars in America are calling them shaheed,
mm, mm,
for losing their life for someone as young as 15, 16. Very brave. So we
mm,
have to look at the bravery of the Bangladeshis.
mm,
Don't let our size and weight and height deceive you. This is what the Bangladeshi population have shown. The extreme bravery of the youth. So Yasir Qadi, Omar Sulaiman,
mm.
they were saying, they were praising how, and
Exactly. Yes.
how
Mm,
the Bangladeshis have done something that
mm,
others could not do.
mm,
So I do think there are a lot of positives from what has happened. We don't know exactly how things are going to turn out. Scholars are saying that Bangladesh cannot just accept that they've overthrown the government and therefore things will just get better. They have to, so that whether it's the student protests or the leaders of the student protests and others who, combined together to bring about this revolution, they need to ensure that the new government does what the protests set out to do, which is a new Bangladesh, new ideas, and
mm,
no more oppression. Now, if we go from some would say, if you're part of Army League or Army government, you're in the grip of India. And
mm,
if you're in the BNP, you're in the grip of the United States. I hope that this is not something that's going to happen again, because Muhammad Yunus is seen as more leaning towards the BNP, even though he's got his own party, more
mm,
leaning towards the BNP. So I do think that we need to be a bit mindful here. I do feel that celebrations should be muted for the time being.
mm,
We need to see, because if we get ourselves too much into the celebration and we think that we've already achieved something, I think it will be premature to do, because we want a new way of governing Bangladesh. We do not want people to be tortured. If those reports are true, again, I cannot take sides. If those reports are true of people being held without any in a due court, without any due course to the justice system, they were kept in whether dungeons or torture cells, whatever the case may be. For any democratic government, that is falling way below the standards expected in this modern world. So I think there are a lot of things that will be coming out in the very near future. But what I do hope for is stability and understanding within Bangladesh. And naturally, the Awami League supporters, they'll probably hold counter rallies, or they might try and disturb, like with any party. So it's not just about Awami League. If it was the other way around, they would have done the same as well. So I do think that it's time that we think about a new way of governing Bangladesh. And I think the two old parties either need to reform themselves, or we need a different way of governing Bangladesh, because we cannot go back to oh, we don't like Army League, let's go with BNP. And then people get fed up with BNP, they go back to Army League.
mm,
So why did this revolution and why did these people lose their lives? So I think the celebrations have to be muted. We need to have cool heads and think about what is it these protests were setting out to achieve.
mm,
Have we achieved those? We cannot get lost in the euphoria of, we've achieved something that other people haven't achieved or other countries. It is true. What they have achieved is remarkable. It will only be remarkable and it will only be worth it or fruitful if we get the desired results. Now, results haven't come yet. It might be 2, 3, 4 years. Who governs and who ensures that this happens? You
mm,
see, so many questions have to be asked. So I'm not celebrating, neither am I depressed about it. I
mm,
do think that this is a new opportunity for Bangladesh, but I do feel Muhammad Yunus is a very intelligent man. Whether he's the right person for the job, I don't know. He's an intelligent man. And I think if he is able to govern without foreign interference, I think he'll do a good job because he understands the economy. Whether he'll be able to manage things himself, that's another question. And I think that's what the students who are involved in this revolution, they need to make sure that there isn't any foreign interference. And if there is, I do feel and I hope that Bangladeshi people will go out and do another revolution until we get freedom and justice for everybody,
mm.
not a particular person or a political party,
Yeah,
but for the
that's
people.
right. I think I just want to sort of touch on the pros and cons of the last government. I've read many reports, like obviously one of the most serious ones was like of all the governments we've had since independence in 1971 was the enforced disappearances. No other government actually did that. Thousands of opposition activists were kidnapped, and the family never knew whether they were alive or not. And when the last government actually came to power in 2008, uh, the election was fine. Nobody questioned 2008 election, but in 2014 there was
Yeah,
no opposition. So that election is still questioned to this day. 2014, sorry, beg your pardon,
yeah,
2014. And then in 2018, when the main opposition, the BNP came,
yeah,
they only won 7 seats, and we saw in many other constituencies where like the BNP candidate got like 2,000 votes and the Army League candidate got 2 lakh votes. Can you see the difference? Again, that
yeah.
election was questioned. And then in 2024 in January, on 7th of January, when we had the last election, literally there was no opposition. you know, our League as a party won roughly about 226 seats, and the rest were won by independents, which again were like our League
Which are all
supporters.
pro-Army League. Yes. So
Exactly.
again,
So basically, not just Bangladeshis, I think critics around the world were questioning, which way the Bangladesh was headed, whether we
yeah,
were becoming a dictatorship. Like, although India is our biggest neighbor, biggest partner, trading partner, we have a good relationship with India, especially with the Army League party. Even like most uh, top YouTubers were actually calling the former prime minister a dictator. You
yeah,
know, people like Dhruv, Deshbakt. I don't know if you know these guys. They are
yeah, yeah,
top YouTubers. Bar the government channels, the news channel, they were obviously praising the
yeah.
former prime minister. So that's one thing the people felt. I think it wasn't just about. There were many issues at the core of it, Zakir Bhai. It wasn't
Yeah.
just about the
Well, I
coup.
was going to say, Rulbai, just from that, sorry if I could just interrupt you there. I do feel that the Prime Minister, with all due respect to her, and from what I heard from her own mouth, not what other people have told me, what I've seen in the Parliament House and other speeches that she gave, a lot was to do with how her father was or how her family was murdered. And we know, obviously, that was really, really horrific.
Mm.
But I do feel that 50, 52 years on, if you will center things around just that event,
Exactly.
then
It's not
the
right.
rest, yeah, it's not right. We look, of course, if that was my family, I'll feel hurt. So I can understand the sentiment. I can understand why she's doing it. But remember, you are a prime minister. You're meant to think of the whole country.
Mm.
Sometimes, as a prime minister, you have to sacrifice your own family for the greater good. And that's what Bongamundu did himself, her father.
Mm.
You see?
Yeah.
So I think if we constantly talk about the events of 1975, and everything has to go back to that. I think what happens is the country feels, well, there are 170 million of us. Why is it that we're always told or asked to remind ourselves that one incident, many others have died, many others. So I think this is where I felt the prime minister could have handled
She made
things
it too
better.
personal, basically. She made it
That's it.
too
So I
personal.
think I think
When you're the
because
prime minister and the government, it should really be about the whole nation, not just yourself.
yeah.
Yes,
So
I
I
mean,
mean I understand. Yeah.
most people do appreciate the efforts of the Army League Party during the
Absolutely.
independence. Most people
Yeah.
do respect, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangabandhu,
Of
Sheikh
course.
Mujibur
Yeah.
Rahman. But I think some critics tend to say that, it came to a point where it was all about her family,
Yes, and this is the thing, and
hmm,
I think this is where the problem comes in. I feel when you personalize it, it becomes like a monarchy. Even though if you don't call it, it
hmm,
becomes like a monarchy, and that's how people see it.
hmm,
You're trying to grab power for your own dynasty or for your own offspring, and I think with those things won't last for too long. And as we see, this is what happens when you make it too personal.
hmm,
And not only there's two things: you make it personal, but the people don't know, and you make it personal and the people do. Here, you made it very personal and you told the people
yeah,
as well. So naturally, everyone's aware of it. So the
yeah,
way they see it is you don't care about us, it's about revenge for your family.
yeah,
So if that's how you can, as I said, with all due respect to the prime minister, as I said, I've never met her personally. I can only look at things and then, as a Bangladeshi, someone living abroad, I can only make judgments. I always felt that she kept referring back to 1975, saying, couldn't anyone stop it? Couldn't anyone take any
yeah.
steps to make sure this and that? And I just feel that when you center it around that, people feel disillusioned. And this is what you saw on the streets of Bangladesh 2, 3 weeks ago.
I mean, look, she's been in power for 15 years. Many people who were against the independence of Bangladesh were tried. Many, few of them who were involved with Bangabandhu's murder, they were tried, they were hanged or killed or jailed. I think, to be fair, like she uh, managed to get a good deal if you think about it.
Yeah,
And
in
yet,
terms of the
and
number of
yet, like
people, yes,
when people used to criticize government on social media, they used to be blacklisted, they used to be arrested. So,
yeah,
you know,
it's,
isn't that too like harsh, don't you think?
no,
Like, you
absolutely.
know,
Then don't call yourself a democracy. If you are
exactly.
going to do things like that, don't call yourself a democracy.
Mm.
Find another word for yourself. So
Yeah.
I think if we're to be balanced, I mean, a lot of things that the government did in
Mm.
terms of, if you want to call it structural development, the
Mm.
economy, I have to praise them. From where we were
Mm.
to where they've taken us, absolutely. In terms of the moral decay, the social decay, I do feel that it became such a big rot that we saw 2, 3 weeks ago. People just had enough.
Mm.
So if we are going to say that economic development is enough
Mm.
and people will be satisfied, clearly the people of Bangladesh weren't
Mm.
satisfied. So it's not all about economics. Economics,
Exactly.
it just tells you that, yes, I've got a few more pennies in my pocket. I can probably eat a bit better. But that doesn't mean my life is fulfilled. If I have a
Exactly.
loved one in some prison somewhere without being fairly tried, what would I think of that country
Yeah, I mean, a lot
or
of
the government?
critics say, yeah, a lot of critics say the main ethos and the principles of the independence of Bangladesh were missing. People,
Yes.
wanted freedom. People
Yeah.
wanted human rights, which was missing. People
Yeah.
wanted, freedom to move, freedom, security, their freedom to express themselves, which they couldn't. We saw
Yeah.
on many occasions. And then
Disappearances. Yeah.
another major issue, I think, which the former government failed was like corruption. They failed to tackle corruption, Zakir.
Absolutely.
Like in Bangladesh, right now, we have $99 billion of debt, and yet $94 billion were actually taken outside of Bangladesh through
Yes, there you go.
needs.
And that
Well,
I
how
think
will the population take that?
absolutely, Rolbai. I think this is where I think if the Bangladeshi population
Mm,
focus on these parts where this 94 billion has to be accounted for, and
mm,
those who are responsible have to answer.
mm,
Okay, all these places that you have abroad, Begompara and many other things that you have in Canada
mm,
and other places.
mm,
It's actually shameful.
mm.
A country like Bangladesh needs its money in its country. And
Yeah.
those who are responsible, I'm not saying just Awami League. I heard that, BNP, they did their fair share as well. Um, all those who are guilty should be held responsible because you are affecting Bangladesh.
And
Anyone affecting Bangladesh should be responsible, held responsible.
yeah, and we've seen in many other countries actually, but I think when a government, even in the UK, we saw the Tories, they were in power since 2010, and after
Yeah,
14 years, they went out with a bang.
they
So
did. They definitely did.
that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah,
So basically, I think what it is like, when a government stays in power for too long, people naturally tend to get fed up. People being people, they want change. They want to see change. They want to see different
yeah,
faces. They want to see different policies, and in many aspects, like even uh, people's freedoms were like curtailed in many
yeah,
aspects. I don't want to go into detail. So it's not just the quota system,
yeah. And I think
people
it's
are.
bigger than that. I think
Yeah,
what it is,
even
what
even
tends to
even
happen
even
is,
like I know a good number of businessmen in Bangladesh. That's how bad. Like only last month, a report came out whereby out of I think 40 plus banks in Bangladesh, some 15 banks were on the verge of bankruptcy. Believe me or not, because people were taking loans left, right, and center. You know. That's how serious it was. And like for a businessman, like say if they deposit £10,000 a month, and then when they go to withdraw their money, they can only withdraw 1,000 per
yeah,
day.
yeah.
So how is a business supposed to sort of function if they can't actually withdraw the money? You know, so
So
that
this
and
mismanagement,
within the last few months, like the our National Reserve actually came down to very, very serious levels.
wow,
It came to a point where people weren't able to sort of export products, so in terms of like the financial mismanagement, it was like colossal, honestly, colossal.
it was, and
And
I think,
things will come out in the near months and years, we'll find out how
and
bad
I
it
do
was
think,
managed. Um,
for me personally, sorry, Roland, carry on.
Yeah. So I was saying basically, so corruption was one. The former government managed, couldn't actually manage. Democracy was, totally missing. And also, yes, on the pros are, I have to say the pros because it's not going to be fair on the former government. Pros
Yeah,
are, yes,
naturally.
they managed to, invest a lot of money on infrastructure, build a lot of bridges like the Padma Setu and like a lot of flyovers.
Yeah,
And as a result, a lot of people were taken out of poverty without a doubt. I've witnessed it.
yeah,
Yeah. The average income in Bangladesh right now is like 20,000 taka, which is very similar to Eastern Europe, believe me or not. Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Very similar. I remember like 15, 20 years ago when I used to go to Bangladesh, I used to see a lot of beggars, but now you don't see beggars, you know.
as many now,
So to be
absolutely.
fair, they have actually, like uplifted a lot of people from poverty and millions of people. They had a really good program called the house building program for the poor
Yeah,
and the homeless. That was a really good project. I thought they gave pension, they gave benefits to widows, they gave benefits to the freedom fighters, which is
fighters, yeah,
fair enough.
it's a good thing. Yeah.
But I think end of the day, people wanted the freedom to speak. Freedom,
Yes,
they wanted human rights, which was drastically missing. This is what I
you know,
really
one
witnessed.
of the
Yeah, sorry, carry on. Exactly.
yeah, I was just to say one of the basic rights is to be able to speak your mind. You know, if
Yeah,
you have food in your belly but you can't open your mouth,
exactly.
you know, it's part of basic living. So I have seen a lot of clips where the prime minister and Awami League, they're talking about um, you know, the advances that they've made
Yeah.
and the progress that they've made, which no one doubts.
Mm.
But if on the same so at the same time people are being disappearing, or
Yeah.
corruption is endemic, the natural reserves going down, yeah, people generally, we're balanced. We look at, okay, the pros and cons, what have you done, what have you not done. So if basic democracy is not there, people are fearing for their lives.
Hmm.
Even if the economy goes up, if I'm not safe, if I don't feel safe, then when I'm eating that more sort of food that you're
Mm.
saying that you brought into my mouth
Yeah.
now because the economy is better,
Yeah.
How and how am I going to feel? So
Yeah.
I think the corruption, I do feel for Bangladesh to be able to move forward and prosper, they must crack down on, doesn't matter which party, individuals who have affected Bangladesh because of decisions they made out of greed need to be held responsible. And that money, that 94 billion,
Mm,
has to be brought back to Bangladesh. How? I'm not sure. But
mm,
all I'm saying is we cannot lose focus on that. If we hold these people responsible now, in
mm.
the future, others won't be so tempted.
Yeah, I think generally the former government really badly managed the whole protest. Honestly, it could have been easily be managed.
Yeah.
They could have
Yes.
easily listened to the students and handled the whole situation. But I think sometimes you become complacent when you're in power.
It's
Yeah,
complacent.
and
Complacent.
you become
Complacent.
lazy, like the Tories in this country, like
Yeah.
you become complacent. So it could have easily been managed. But anyway, it is what it is. Uh, coming forward, I think after the second independence,
You know
if
what
you
it
want
is?
to call it that, second
It is.
independence,
I think
coming to yeah, I think one of the paying respect to the people who died. May Allah give them
absolutely.
like people like the famous person, the first person who was shot, like Abu Said, yeah, and Mugdo, one of the guys
Yeah.
who were giving out water to the protesters, um, and many hundreds of others who died and who are still missing to this day. Parents,
Yeah.
families don't know where they are. I think former government actually failed to recognize. Again, it goes back to history, isn't it? The history of Bengal. Bengalis have always been very,
Revolutionary. That's
revolutionary.
in their blood.
So
It's in their blood.
how could the government actually forget that? Like it was the very students who played a crucial role in 1952 during the language movement. It
Absolutely.
was the very student who played a crucial role in the first independence in 1971. And then
Absolutely.
when the students rose up, they should have actually, learned their lesson from history, but which obviously
Yeah.
they didn't. That is why, we are where we
I
are.
I think I
Um,
think where the government failed big
yeah,
time, really, was that in 1971. Why is it that that will happen? Injustice,
injustice.
oppression. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Oppression.
you same thing you're doing now. Yes, those were the Pakistanis, and here your fellow Bangladeshis. But the spirit of the Bangladeshis is
Mm,
doesn't matter who it is. If
mm.
we're being oppressed, we fight against it. Whether it's the
Exactly.
British, whether it's
Mm,
the Pakistanis, whether
exactly.
it's our own. So
Exactly.
that is a spirit that needs to be admired,
Mm,
but it also needs to be challenged in the right, so channeled in the right way. So that's the part I'm a bit nervous about, Roll, by going into the future.
yeah.
I know I do hope that it is managed better, and we cannot, the Bangladeshi protesters who made this revolution cannot now go to sleep and think we've done what we need to do. No, brothers and sisters who have sacrificed so much. It's easy for us to talk from Britain, but I really do admire what they've done. Whether it was the right thing to do, I don't know. I couldn't say. But the actual thing that they've done itself, it takes a lot of bravery. So we need to acknowledge their bravery. But they cannot just think to themselves they've achieved something. There's more to be achieved in order for us to have this revolution, something that is worthwhile holding on to and
Mm,
telling our children and grandchildren in the future of what happened in
mm,
August the 5th. So I do think it would be premature to celebrate now. I'm not celebrating, neither am I depressed in any way. All I
mm,
want to see is how the situation plays out. I want what's best for Bangladesh, not a political party. I'm not interested in Army League. I'm not interested in BNP or any other party. I really don't care. I care about the people of Bangladesh and the prosperity of Bangladesh. And anyone who goes against Bangladesh or the Bangladeshi people or the best interest of Bangladesh,
mm.
the Bangladeshis should fight against that.
Exactly, 100%. I think the current government, the interim government, led by Dr. Professor Yunus, um, one thing we've witnessed is like we've never had, I think, let alone Bangladesh, in any other country, whereby two protesters, two student leaders, have become part of the government, which is
Yeah,
very, very
yeah,
unique
it is.
around the
There you
world.
go. That is, yeah.
And that shows that like we have talent in Bangladesh, we have revolutionary people, we have people with vision. These two student leaders who became the one of the two advisors to the interim government, when you see them talk, you can see the talent and uh,
Yes.
the
And the
vision
talent
they
has been
have for the
suppressed.
country. And
And that's another thing.
I was taken back, Zakir, by the pace of change, it's almost like, like people used to take bribes, almost have stopped,
Yeah.
people used to,
And did you,
like
so Lord,
tolls,
just to
road
stop you,
tolls. Sorry?
yeah. So just to stop you, did you
Yeah.
see how they were managing the traffic as well, the students?
Oh yeah, oh my
Boys
God.
and
I
girls.
mean,
Boys and girls. I was very proud.
yeah, I
Very
was
proud.
very proud of them. Honestly, they were managing the traffic because in the history of Bangladesh, I think not any, I haven't seen any in any other country around the world, like
Yeah.
where the police were afraid to come to but their jobs because
Yeah.
they did injustice to the public.
Yeah.
If they were on the right side of history, they wouldn't have been like afraid to come to work.
Yes,
But here you
absolutely.
are, they've actually, they played a major part in cracking down on dissent, cracking down on
Yeah.
normal protests, and as a
Yeah.
result, but the police, they were very afraid and were, I think only 2 days ago, majority of them came back to work. Still, I think another 10-15% still haven't actually returned to work. But, rightly, the students are doing a wonderful job, honestly,
Yeah.
all credit due to them.
I was very
They're
proud of how
managing
they
traffic.
managed it.
They're cleaning up streets. They're cleaning up rivers. Honestly, I believe
Yeah.
if things actually keep this way, we'll have a beautiful Bangladesh in 5-10 years time.
Absolutely, and I think the
You
key thing is, Roland, obviously you've
Yeah.
got you've got connections in Bangladesh in terms of political work that you've done. I think the key thing now is how do we stop foreign interference,
Mm.
foreign companies coming in and then slowly working with the local businessmen or people who are well-to-do, and then it becomes like another gangsterism whereby foreign invaders, I would like to call them, no investors, foreign invaders come in and they have local collaborators, and it's back to 1957 and we're
Mm.
just waiting for the next Mirja force to arrive. So I
Exactly.
think it's very important that we don't forget that our history of what has happened. The power has to be with the people. It cannot be with any one person or party or group. It has to be with the people. The people have, like they've shown, how the students have shown, who actually has the real control. It's the people. That's
Exactly.
what the Bangladeshi people have demonstrated. You do not you cannot do this to people for 15 years and
Mm.
there's not going to be any ramifications. There
Exactly.
definitely will
Exactly.
be. And Bangladesh have proven that.
Yeah, obviously we're running out of time, so we need to end the program. So on that note, Zakir bhai, I think this should be a lesson to other political parties who are in Bangladesh who are thinking of coming into power.
Yeah,
Do not take the public for granted. Do not take the students for granted. And obviously, we are where we are, and we can only hope for the best. And we hope that we have a, very successful Bangladesh in 10 years' time or 20 years' time.
absolutely.
Bangladesh,
Absolutely.
you and I know Bangladesh has so much potential. One of the
Absolutely.
drawbacks is like Bangladesh, like yeah, every year, like 2.2 million people enter the job market, and yet we only have jobs for 200,000 people, and yet
Yeah.
we have like foreigners who occupy one of the most senior position in Bangladesh. How is that
Yeah.
right? Why
Yes.
couldn't the government actually train up local talent to manage
Absolutely.
these positions?
Absolutely.
So that's another thing that the future governments need to think about. We are seeing drastic change. My God, I'm lost for words, honestly. The amount of
Mashallah.
things we are saying, like they got rid of all the like mayors, the Purusha,
Yeah.
champions, and many elected officials. They've they've scrapped the dissolved the parliament. So I think very soon, maybe in 6 months' time or a year's time, we'll have new elections, and then even
Yeah.
like top civil servants, they're being changed, as we
Yeah.
speak, basically. So yeah, we can only hope for the better.
Inshallah.
Do you have any final thoughts? 30 seconds,
No,
like we need to end the program.
no. All I would say is that what I've said before is all I wish for Bangladesh is prosperity. I think we've got a brilliant chance now. We cannot forget why this revolution started or where we want Bangladesh to go. We can't have any foreign